I'll call the regular council meeting to order of October the 19th at 5:30 p.m. and say good evening, everyone, and welcome to the October 19th, 2022 regular council meeting, the final meeting of this council. Election day is on October 24th, and on November 16th, the new council will take the oath of office and begin a new four-year term. For now, it's appropriate that we begin our meeting in the usual way and acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Sioux First Nation within the area of Treaty 3, and that many of the people and communities we serve as a hub for are in Treaties 5 and 9 of the Anishinaabe Nation. And this evening, I'd also like to take a few moments to acknowledge ourselves, the outgoing council. 4 years is a relatively long time, and our four-year term has included much, both of significance and routine. This is not the same council that started 4 years ago. Tragically, already in this term, we lost Councillor Cal Southall. Cal served multiple terms as councillor and left us and his family too soon. So let's please pause for a moment to remember Cal and the contributions he made to the council over several terms. Thank you. Of the many things Cal championed, I know he would have been very pleased to see the town beach open. In many ways, the town beach, the time, the process, the challenges, the reward, is typical of much of our work as council. The project was conceived about 3 or 4 council terms before ours. The concept was developed with considerable public input. Like so many projects, the timing of its development had to wait to coincide with available funding from senior levels of government. Like so many projects that develop over a long period of time, the costs increased. And like many projects, extraneous factors impacted its implementation. In this case, a decades-old fire and associated fuel spill. Like so many projects, it had its detractors and critics. And once started, like so many projects, there were challenges during construction. In this case, contractor performance issues compounded by the impacts of COVID. And like most projects, once completed and opened, it was accepted, embraced, applauded, and yes, much used by the community. As with so many projects, so many decisions, the town beach was considered by council, and once considered, a decision was made by council to move ahead. Once the decision was made, council stuck with it despite the challenges, and like some decisions at times, council had to quietly bear the brunt of public criticism while legal machinations and processes took place, as they must, behind the scenes. It was a unique project, but it also went through a typical process for a council. I've used it, singled it out, I suppose, as representative of our term among the many deliberations, decisions, projects, and processes we have done. I'd like to say to each and every one of you, I have enjoyed working with you on this council. And while we have at times had disagreements on items before us, we have considered the matters, and I hope that each of you feels that you had the opportunity to voice your opinion, your argument, your view. We have made our decisions in the democratic manner set out in our processes, and we have accepted those decisions as a council. And it is my observation that each of you and we collectively made our decisions in what we believed to be the best overall interests of the community as a whole. So personally, I thank you all very much for your respectful support for my role as mayor and for your patience with me as I have continued to learn more about fulfilling that role as part of council. And before we start our final meeting, on behalf of council, I would like to thank administration and all municipal staff and employees for all you do for the municipality. And thank you for all you have done over this term of council to facilitate our governance role. Thank you very much. took a bit more time for that than normal, so thank you very much. Introduction of amendments to the agenda.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, we do have one addition to the agenda. Under item 14, under closed session, we would like to add one item per the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, Section 239, subsection 2, subsection B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, and more specifically, staffing matters.
Thank you. Motion to confirm that the agenda for the regular council meeting of October 19th be approved as amended. Moved by Councillor Howie, seconded by Councillor Bath. All in favor? Carried. Declarations of pecuniary interest.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I have none.
Thank you. And motion to adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting held on September 21st, 2022 be approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Fanlon, seconded by Councillor Bath. Thank you. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Motion that the minutes of the District of Kenora Home for the Aged meeting held on July 28th, 2022 be received. Moved by Councillor Fanlon, seconded by Councillor Simpson. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. And determination of items requiring separate discussion. 7.1, council travel policy. Councillor Timpson. 7.2, personnel policies. Councillor Timpson. 7.3, food cycler pilot program information report. Councillor Timpson. 7.4, section 357 application. Councillor Lego. 7.5, appoint deputy treasurer, T. Roswell. 7.6, cost increase for Bigwood Service Extension Project. And that's it. So we have items that we have lifted are 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.4. I got that right? Yep. Adoption of the items not requiring separate discussion. Motion to adopt items 7.5 and 7.6. Moved by Councillor Bath, seconded by Councillor Howie. All in favor? Carried. And moving on to staff reports. Item 7.1. The council authorizes the passing of bylaw number 53-22, being a bylaw to adopt policy number 1-6, council travel expenses policy. Moved by Councillor Timpson, seconded by Councillor Fanlon, and start the discussion with Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, I have about 7 comments actually on it. The number C, unusual distances. There are some unusual distances to travel within Sioux lookout boundaries for which council is not reimbursed. For example, to Hudson, it's 50 kilometers return. To Pelican School, it's 35, 40 kilometers. Another example would be the site of the proposed septic field out by the Army base. I think that there should be some consideration made for long trips that we take in council, or just strictly we pay for every mile that we travel. The other thing is too, we have a member from Hudson who has to come into town every month on his own expense, and 50 kilometers is a fair, starts to add up the cost. So I'd like to see that. I'd like to see that change so that there is some leeway with council travel. There's also in the chart that shows the distances, Lac Sioux, I think, is listed as 150 return, but Lac Sioux is a very, very big community with 3 communities. There's Frenchman's Head is about 25, about 40 kilometers from here, 80, whereas if you go to Sioux, we're looking at maybe 75 kilometers from here. So there's a big difference there that I think we should look at. And there's some question about the system of paying mileage from Sioux Lookout to Thunder Bay, for example, for one blanket. Rate, but there's times that you might have to take a detour, you may be coming from somewhere else. I think it'd be better for all of these things just to have the exact number of kilometers that one travels, because otherwise volunteers are essentially paying a lot of money out of their own pocket. So that would be my recommendation on that particular one. See, the other thing, if meals are provided at a conference, there's a fairly hefty meal policy there. But some of these conferences you go to, and every meal is provided, and perhaps it needs to be that if one cannot have the lunch that's provided or the dinner provided, or there's a special meeting called that they have to pay for a meal, that would be covered. But it doesn't seem right that we should be paying meal allowance when it's covered. And the other thing is the per diem for travel time. A half a day is listed as 6 hours, but basically if you go 6 hours, if you're away for 6 hours, it really is your entire day is gone, and it might as well have been 12 hours. So I don't think it's fair to only reimburse for half a day when it's a 6-hour trip. I find that with the KDMA, I have to leave at noon and not back till 6, but really the whole day is gone. So those would be my suggestions, that we look at the council travel reimbursements here. We are covered for internet and phone with the allowance we get the first of the month, but we don't get any type of car allowance for the running around we do town. Sometimes we have to run to a place where there's a zoning bylaw and we have to drive over to see it, and I think we should be reimbursed for those costs.
Anything further, Councillor Timpson?
I think that was it.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments on this? Councillor Legge, I'll start you.
Just in regards to Councillor Timpson, I suggest that we just remove mileage, the chart itself, and when you fill up your vehicle with fuel, you hand in that receipt, and that comes right off of your travel expenses. That way we're not, well, you traveled 150, or now you can go to Hudson and back. You just hand in your receipt and it comes off your travel expenses. It makes things a lot more simpler than trying to use the chart and, well, I traveled this far this day and I traveled this far this day. And then when all your money's gone out of your travel expense, it's gone. And same with meals. I also agree that a lot of the places that we go to, meals are covered. But if they're not, again, we just hand in a receipt for our meals. I guess they have it at $98.45. For me, I think that you spend what you spend, and when your allotted money is gone, it's gone. So not everyone goes to every meeting or function. So, and for me, I've never used a dime of travel expense in 4 years, but I could see certain people needing to go to certain things. When I was on the Home for the Aged, they paid for my travel expense there and back, again through mileage. But I think for us, if we went and got rid of the chart and you just handed in receipts when you spent money on gas, and that comes directly off of your travel expenses. And same with meals, just to simplify it.
Councillor Fallon.
Yeah, I think, I don't know what happened to, years ago, we used to get paid for travel time. Because I remember Mayor Lenny was coming from an island out there somewhere where we worked. And, but anyways, it was all right for a while, but then it got just, you know, too hard keeping track of meetings, going back and forth. And I never kept up with getting paid for it because it just really didn't matter to me. If you have to travel while you're on a council meeting within town to go out to Hudson or somewhere there, that's not warranted. That should be your time paid. You get paid that day for a council meeting. So that's my thought on that.
Thank you. Councillor Howie?
I did note that the mileage will be set quarterly. Could we just set a standard mileage rate rather than say go by the chart or go by a bank account? At least I've seen that in other employment settings. Just a standard rate like 56 cents or 25 cents depending on how you want to look at the economy.
Good. Councillor Bath, any comments?
Yeah, just a couple. I agree the half-day thing is kind of a pointless one to have, but on the other hand, there needs to be some kind of a minimum. I don't think a person should get a per diem, a full day's per diem, if they're only occupying themselves for an hour or a couple of hours. So there needs to maybe a better break for that. If you are traveling, for example, to Dryden or probably even like to Lac Sioux for something, you're certainly burning up the best part of a day. So I think there needs to be a little bit of thought go into that. I'd be concerned with picking Hudson as a mileage point, because Hudson is Sioux Lookout, and we can't. The minute we start separating it, then we're getting back into that argument we've been having for quite a few years now. So I think the mileage may deal with that, but there's always going to be councillors who are more frivolous with their mileage, I guess would be a good way to look at it, and they'll drive to Hudson and want to claim mileage for that just because they went to Hudson and did a council thing. So, you know, it's pretty hard to regulate some of that stuff. Some of the things we do as councillors, we know we're not getting paid for. Obviously, your hourly rate is not quite not a very high rate, so you're not too worried about collecting money, I don't think, when you're on council. So somewhere when I was reading through the report, there was also a comment about raising council the rates by the amount of COLA, and I really do disagree with that. I think if the cost of living, the inflation is going up, possibly councillors should be backing down a little bit and not doing quite so much, not doing so much travel, rather than seeing the benefit of COLA. So I think there's a couple of issues in there that need to be worked out. That's about the only ones I had on it. I think the mileage thing is probably it's cumbersome for staff, is what I would see. So.
Okay, thank you. I'll just make a couple of observations before I ask. There hasn't been that much council. Well, I guess we're in COVID, so maybe it's not a fair comparison. But it doesn't seem like there's that much council travel. When I travel for KDSB, I actually make use of the municipal car, and KDSB actually reimburses the municipality for that use. The same with the health unit. KDSB does provide a lunch when we meet there. I never have any charges there. I don't charge a per diem for KDSB or the health unit because that's part of the agreement. KDSB and the health unit compensates whoever is on. KDMA is different, and that with Councillor Timpson's comments, I think apply there absolutely, because it's not a funded organization. We fund it by doing it, so that's quite different. And then I agree, when travel to whether Roma or AMO, it varies. The meals, when I was on the AMO board, I got a lot of meals covered, but now that I'm not on the board, I think we're more or less on our own. There's an occasional meal that's paid for. It really does vary from travel to travel. I don't think it's a huge issue. I would agree with perhaps going to just a mileage basis, And just adopting the federal government or provincial government mileage rate of whatever it is, 54 cents a kilometer. And if you travel to Hudson, Frenchman's Head, or Dryden, that's Thunder Bay, wherever, you just do the mileage and charge. I think the meal, the allowance for meals is there. If you buy, it's awkward. It depends. If you go to Dryden versus downtown Toronto, although in downtown Toronto you can find reasonably, it really does vary. So I think having a standard amount for meals makes sense, and you make it work or you don't. And the per diem is really, my understanding on I think that your comments on the half day are I think make sense, Councillor Timpson, that if you are gone, I don't know whether the 6 hours, having a half day or not. Most of the places we go, once you go, like even to go to Dryden, if you have a 2-hour meeting and the travel time and this and that, it ends up being close to 5 or 6 hours. The per diem, as I understand it, is meant to replace some, in part, if you're working for a living and you can't, it substitutes a little bit for your wages. If you can't charge, it sort of equalizes the playing field for everybody. Having said that, the staff, have you heard anything that you would say you might accommodate? CAO, start with you.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lawrence. So typically the CAO reviews all of the mileage claims and any per diems that come in. So part of the CAO's job is to just scrutinize and then send it on to either payroll or accounts payable for reimbursement. I can say in the past 4 years I haven't seen a lot of, barely any, well, if any, abuse of the claims that are put in by members of council. Part of the reason for putting in the chart is it is cumbersome, because I have to go and calculate each time somebody goes from point A to point B, just to make sure that it's, the number is close to what I calculate, what's put on the sheet. So that's part of the reason why we thought we would standardize it from a chart perspective. So that's the reasoning behind that. I'm trying to think of what else I got here. And again, the meal allowances, what I do is, and I do this as well when I review management claims that come in as well. If there's a conference or a workshop or something that somebody goes to, I always check to make sure that the conference fees, if the meals were included, then I don't allow them to claim meals for that day unless there were extenuating circumstances. And sometimes, as the mayor has alluded to earlier, when we go to conferences, for example, AMO or Roma, because of delegation, sometimes they run through meal times when the meals are offered in the conference, so we have no choice but to grab a meal somewhere else and pay for it. So in those cases there, we would still pay the meal allowance that was allotted for the council member or management person, whoever it is. So those are the only comments so far that I have on that. And as far as the half day, the definition of what constitutes a half day for a per diem or a full day, to me it doesn't matter, whatever council decides.
So, Councillor Timpson, back to you. You started the ball rolling.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy with just straight mileage, but as you say, you want to standardize it, and perhaps there has to be some explanation if it's more than the allotted or suggested here. I think 4 hours would be a fair half a day, and I do think that if we are going to Hudson, I had to go to Hudson several times this summer and to Pelican School several times this summer, so probably spent a tank of gas all summer, and at $2 a liter this summer was kind of expensive. So those would be the main suggestions I would have. Would be straight mileage, and explain if it diverse from what is in here, and half a day be 4 hours, and a full day be 8 hours or whatever, more than 4 hours, and let's see. Yeah, I think those are the three things that I suggest that I think would be fair.
Councillor Family.
One thing, if you're going to pay a person mileage from here to Hudson, why can't that person that lives in Hudson claim mileage back?
I think that's what Councillor Timpson was alluding to,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I think that's, maybe if a councillor lives more than a certain number of kilometers from the office, then they should be permitted, and we could just come up with whatever that distance could be.
So then there'd have to be a sort of Alcona, there's other areas too, that, I mean, if we're getting there, it gets a little bit fuzzy, or, Councillor Howie, did you have your hand up? Sorry, I'm sorry, yeah, you did.
You read my mind. That's what I think happened. So I was just drawing parallels between the personnel policy then for travel and council. So if we're going to pay for counselors to drive from Hudson or Alcona, wherever, we may go into a different position when it looks at staff that live in Hudson or wherever, because we are paid in essence, and staff are paid. We have a job to do. We have to be here physically, and staff have to be physically present at work, depending on their duties. Don't want to get into that. But how do we navigate that?
Yeah, in a way, you bring up the point that your place of employment is your home base in a sense, and if you're traveling away, it's difficult to pay people to come to your mileage to come to work, right? I think it gets a little bit hairy. Councillor Lego. No.
No.
That's why there's two separate reports. There's one for council and there's one for all the staff.
Clerk.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, so council may wish to look at a hybrid with respect to the travel, so that for these sort of further away destinations, you use the chart as the sort of minimum distance, and then if there's detours or needing to attend a variety of meetings throughout Thunder Bay, then that gets tacked on to the minimum charge. And then for in-town mileage, if you will, then there is a form and date where you went to, odometer in, odometer out, and total, and then they could always be submitted on a monthly or a quarterly basis or whatever, as a way of covering more substantial in-town travel for members.
CIO.
Just a quick comment that through you, Mayor Lawrence, with reference to municipal staff policy for mileage within the municipality, typically we don't put in anything. So if I go to Hudson, I go to Lac Seul in my car, I encourage my staff to use municipal vehicles for liability purposes while they're at work, because if they ever get in an accident, any fault in the accident goes on their insurance, not the municipal insurance. So I strongly suggest to my management team and even staff that if they're using the vehicle, using a vehicle during work time, is that they use a municipal vehicle for that purpose. If they absolutely can't, then we pay mileage if they're, they have to travel for conferences and that. But within the municipality, not very many managers or staff put in for mileage when they use their vehicle, their personal vehicle.
Councillor Lego.
That's why I was suggesting councillors just hand in a fuel receipt, and that would come right off of their travel expense that's allotted to them in their budget. So that way you're not going to fuel. You put in 160 kilometers for reimbursement, but to drive back is only 100 kilometers. 200. Say they put in 300. But to me, that money's allotted to the counselor, and they should be able to use it how they see. And every month or every 2 months, you want to put in a receipt for fuel, because you've been running around and going to different events. To me, it makes it easier than trying to go, okay, well, you traveled this, and this is what we're giving you. The money's already allotted to the counselor. I think we're adults enough to how to use it. And if we do, we have $4,000. So
Yeah.
Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, the type of travel I'm referring to is things that are travel or council directed, like KDMA, which is a meeting, or I had to go to Pelican School to do a greeting, and Hudson to do a greeting, that sort of thing, and not from my travel allowance, not from my travel and training, but sort of requested by the municipality to do. So that's really what I'm referring to. The other, I tend to agree with you when it's our travel and training, but it's more council-directed things. That's what I'm looking at.
So staff, is there, sorry, what's the urgency in passing this? I'm just wondering if you've heard all this, what about taking it back and bringing it back to the next council? Is that fair enough, or there's some modifications that, council, would that be acceptable? It's getting kind of nitty-gritty to try and sort it all out here, I think is going to be a little bit, but staff have heard the comments from every, and bring it back to the next council? So can I withdraw the motion? What do I need to do, sir?
Lawrence, with the consent of the mover, which was Councillor Timpson, the motion can be withdrawn.
To be brought, doesn't have to be, it goes without saying it's going to be brought back. Okay. Councillor Timpson, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's been good discussion, and I think that if, I'd like to see it just again with maybe some of these refinements, and other than that, it's fine.
Very good. So, motion withdrawn? Very good, thank you. Item 7.2, the council authorizes the passing of bylaw number 45-22, being a bylaw to adopt the Corporation of the Municipality of Silico policy numbers 3-48, travel expenses, 3-11, clothing, and 3-58, attendance management program. Moved by Councillor Fenlon, seconded by Councillor Howie, and Councillor Timpson. Start with you.
Yeah, it was mostly similar comments to the travel section of this policy. Same issues as council. Basically. The travel section of the personnel policies.
So item 6 on the agenda, 3-48. The mileage expense and rates. So
the personnel policies have 3 sections to them: travel, clothing, and attendance.
So you're referring to the travel expenses
Yes,
section.
mostly, yeah.
Okay, and similar, you have similar comments as
Yes,
per
pretty much similar.
comments made at council. So there's a chart, a mileage chart as there is, and the rates and everything else is the same. So I guess the same comments might apply. CIO.
I had one more question of clarification on this attendance management policy. Conditions, page 39, established benchmark. Just explain what it means. 37.5 for 1,950, 40 for 2,080. Didn't know what that was referring to.
What page are you on?
Page 39 of that policy.
The attendance management policy,
Yeah.
which is item, CIO is item,
Is she looking at the PDF of the
item
agenda?
4 in the, I'm sorry, I'm looking at e-scribe, it's item 4, yeah, so page 30, 39.
Yeah.
Oh dear, what have I done?
Oops. I've got the wrong one up. Should have it on the.
I
It's
don't,
page 39 on the big agenda. Yeah.
oh, not page 39 of the attendance management policy.
Sorry, yeah, page 39 of the whole agenda.
Oh, okay, sorry, okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, CIO.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I'll defer that to Megan to answer that question, and I'll chime in if you need help.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, the 37 and a half hours for a 1950 employee is 1 working week. The 40 hours for 2080 is 1 working week.
Yeah, I was just wondering why the difference, I guess.
Different departments have different working hours, so the 37 and a half is going to be 1 full week, so you're out 5 days for your typical office employee, and for 40 hours you're out a full week, 5 days for a typical operational employee.
Okay, is there a difference in the policy for the 2 different groups?
No, just the benchmark.
Okay. And the significance of the benchmark, I'm sorry, I don't, I've not ever known of this policy before to.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, the point of the benchmark is so that we have an established time frame for the manager to determine there's something to talk to the employee about. So if you're missing 5 days of work over a 3-month period, whether it's for illness or whatever, this gives the manager an opportunity to open a dialogue and find out if there's anything we can do to support that employee. If we wait longer, there could be other things going on with the employee that become exacerbated by not approaching the topic as quickly as we can, but approaching it too early could also be a negative thing.
Okay, thanks. That's all.
Did you have comments on the first part of Councillor Timpson's?
I'm not quite sure exactly what Councillor Timpson was referring to, but I think she just means in the actual motion to take out the travel expenses, right?
Yeah,
Because that's the travel expense policy that we
that I
referred
was
to in the
questioning, yes.
item above.
To take, I'm sorry, I'm misunderstanding. Yeah, I see that. Oh, I see, but this is for personnel,
This is
not
a
for
different-
council.
Oh, sorry, my mistake.
So what Councillor Timpson was saying was the same comments that she made relative to council travel would be similar for this policy related to staff travel. So how does that, your response?
We can also bring that back with the other one for council.
Okay. So do we want to break this one up, the personnel policies, and pass the others and not the travel? Okay. So that would be back to the, unless there's, are there any other comments from council? So the mover,
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, Councillor Fenelon. So essentially what we would do is just scratch out 348 travel expenses and just leave in 311, 358.
and we need the mover to accept that.
Correct, yes.
Councillor Fenelon, you're good? Okay. Are there any other comments? So based on the amended motion, taking out 348 travel expenses, all in favor? Carried, thank you. 7.3, that council receives the manager, okay, sorry, we have an or here. Which one do we want to put on the table? Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, so given that this is coming through the Environment Committee, it's my understanding the committee is proposing the first part of the recommendation, so the or would be if council doesn't support the first part. So I would go with the motion being everything up to the or.
Very good. So the motion is the council receives the Manager of Development Services report number 2022-091 regarding a food cycler pilot program for information purposes, and further, that council directs staff to further investigate including a municipality's subsidized food cycler pilot program as a budget item for the 2023 fiscal year. Moved by Councillor Timpson, seconded by Councillor Howie. And discussion. Councillor Timpson.
Oh, yeah, this came up in May, as is indicated. And one of our members put an ad on Facebook as who might be interested in this, and within a few days she had 33 people in the community were interested in participating in that, and that was just with one small Facebook post. So, there's certainly interest out there, and I think it would be it'd be a very interesting project to be part of.
Okay. I do know that it's to investigate including a municipality subsidized food cycler pilot program. So it would be investigated and then put to the new council. Okay. Further comments from council? Councillor Lego.
So for me, just like with when the blue boxes came up, I would not want to see this in the 2023 budget. The Environment Committee should be providing all the information for these people to go buy one, but the municipality shouldn't be subsidizing this for individuals, in my opinion.
Councillor Bath.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I had actually been looking at these for a while. We've composted forever. When we lived on Centennial, and we lived on King Street, and we lived on Moosehorn, we've always composted and always used it. We're now living on very, very small, shrunken lots. When we moved into town, they're very small, and the bushback says, I don't compost now, because I believe it'd be dangerous to compost in that area. We're just asking for trouble. So it's an interesting thing. I had looked at these. I don't know if I think municipalities should be subsidizing it. I have a hard time going there. But certainly promoting it somehow would be great. I think it's probably a good idea. It's a little bit pricey to put something on your counter, but it's a shame to throw all the food away. We now throw our food away that we used to compost. So it's a shame that we have to do that. I'm not sure I'm going to spend $500 though.
Councillor Howie.
I think I absolutely support investigating this possibility. I've seen it done in other small municipalities with great success, great uptake, great interest, and a pretty good follow through on the households to continue that practice once it becomes a habit. I know a few people in Sioux that also use them quite, say, religiously, and it's great for their garden, great for their house plants even, for those that have a smaller home. So I definitely support the motion to investigate it, but definitely the next council will have to decide if it's a go or not.
Okay, so Councillor Fenlon.
I can't agree with that because it's, people should be taking the initiative to do their own composting, and I don't think the municipality has done do we have enough people interested in it, and can we do it? There's two types of composting you're doing here. You're doing one with just green leaf vegetables and stuff like that, and then you're taking meat and other stuff which is attractable to bears. Our compost don't get bothered by no bears. We don't have meat in it and stuff like that. So I read it and I thought, I don't think I like it.
Okay, so the motion before us is to investigate and bring it back to the new council. So that would be what you're not committing, this council isn't committing the dollars. So when I call for the motion, it's really the question is, do you support investigating further so it's brought back to the next council, and there would be costs associated for that council to scrabble with, deal with how much they want to subsidize, how little, if at all. So that would be, I guess, just what I would ask you to vote on. Do we want to investigate? So unless there's anything further, I would call that motion. So all in favor?
Yep.
Carried. Thank you. Section 7.4, Section 357 application. The council approves the application made under Section 357 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended in the amount of $48,580.18 as set out in the Treasurer's Summary Report dated October 19, 2022, report number 2022-092. Moved by Councillor Fenlon, seconded by Councillor Howie. Discussion, Councillor Lego.
Just a question, is there a funding stream available for the municipality to get reimbursement on claims like this? Or is it just that it just comes right off of our bottom line?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, it comes right off the bottom line, so the individual has to apply to it. It has to follow certain criterias in order for them to qualify, and then it has to go to MPAC as well. So it does just fall under our bottom line in regards to our taxation.
Okay. Just with all that went on this past spring and into, well, not quite summer, but in the spring, I'm not sure how many people were even aware that they could do this, like even put an application in.
That I'm not 100% sure.
I'm just wondering if people do that, if they would have done the same thing. Because there was, or was it just having access to funding from the provincial government? These are two separate things, so.
They are two separate things. I'm not entirely sure what your question
So
is.
there's funding from the provincial government, which residents can apply for if they had damage, and this is something completely different?
That's correct.
Okay. My concern is just no one knows this exists, and if they could have also used this to help them for that section of time that there was other businesses that were affected, and they may not have known that they could apply for some relief.
CIO.
This is a specific 357 application, so mostly it's if your house is raised by fire, things like that makes it totally unusable for a business, okay? So that's why they were able to apply into this, because they weren't able to use the business at all because it was flooded, so they lost revenues. So what happened was they put in the application, we submit it to MPAC, they tell us what the assessment would be during that period of time for the reduction in taxes, and then we reapply that write-off to that business.
All right, that makes sense. I wasn't sure of the whole structure of it. Thanks.
Anything further, Council?
Just
Councillor
a
Timpson.
question on that. So a person who had to move out of their house and their house is, damaged considerably, would they be eligible?
I will defer this to the treasurer and then comment afterwards. We did, in some of our meetings, through you, Mayor Lawrence, sorry, in some of our meetings with the residents, they were aware that, so for example, on Pelto Road, it had to be the landowner, not the tenants, that could apply for relief. So they knew about it at that time, and we explained that process to a lot of the homeowners. Carly, did you want to add to that? Okay.
But there's relief, but there's also tax reduction. Or were you referring to tax reduction?
There's, Mayor Lawrence, there's the DREO program specifically for disaster recovery assistance for Ontarians. That's to help rehabilitate, get their, their expenses for anything that was damaged and their buildings back in, their homes back in order for the principal residents only. And then there's specifically the tax, and that's the taxation, and that's through the municipality. It doesn't negate anybody from trying to put in an application at any point. There's no deadline.
For both?
For the 357 application.
Yeah,
The DREO program, the deadline was October 7th.
Okay.
7th.
Anything further, Council? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Bylaws. Go ahead, Clerk. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence. So one amendment to bylaw number 45-22, policy 3-48, travel expenses will be deleted from that bylaw per the discussion this evening. There are a few bylaws before council this evening for consideration. Bylaw number 45-22 being a bylaw to adopt the corporation of the municipality of Sioux. Policy numbers 3-11 clothing and 3-58 attendance management program. Bylaw number 5322 being a bylaw to adopt policy number, sorry, that one's not coming.
That one's, yeah, thank
Yes, my apology. Bylaw number 5522 being a bylaw to authorize and direct the mayor and the clerk to execute an agreement between the municipality of Sioux and Jam Developments Incorporated for the equal cost sharing of the reconstruction of the Sturgeon River Boat Launch Road, and to rescind bylaw number 44-22. And bylaw number 64-22 being a bylaw to appoint a deputy treasurer for the corporation of the municipality of Sioux Lookout, T. Rosell. With respect to bylaw number 5522, just a quick note, council did approve that in July by the developer at the time had requested additional revisions to the agreement. So we're just bringing this back now for council to reapprove and to rescind the original approval from July.
And then bylaws number 45-22, 55-22, and 64-22 be read for a second and third time and passed. Moved by Councillor Fanlon, seconded by Councillor Howie. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And we're down to councillor reports. Final reports for Councillor Howie.
I mean, it was a quiet month. I had to send my regrets to the last council meeting. Had hip surgery, so haven't been out much. Been asked my thoughts on the election, and I just encourage everybody to go vote.
Very good. Thank you. Councillor Timpson.
I don't have a lot to report. I missed a couple of meetings. I took some time to go down to Toronto. And KDMA was cancelled for lack of quorum. TRC was cancelled for lack of quorum. I had one environment committee meeting, and I did a welcoming of students to the career fair that SLAM put on at the high school last week. So that was basically my month.
Thank you. And final report for Councillor Bath.
As usual, I attended a virtual PACE meeting last night and a virtual Hydro meeting tomorrow, actually. So I will be attending. Other than that, it's been pretty selfish use of my time in the last month because I've had a lot of stuff I'm trying to get cleaned up before the ground froze, but it snuck up on me and froze anyway. But it's going to thaw, so we're good.
I think it's not permanent yet, though, is it?
It was 2 inches thick. I had to chop through it.
And Councillor Fenlon, final report.
I missed a meeting with the M&R. Email was out. It froze up. I guess we had the last meeting. I never looked at my iPhone. So I missed that one. It's been a long time. It's been a good time. I can't say got anything bad about it. Some of it was a lot of learning curves and stuff like that for people and for me to use sort of shy guy out there somewhere. It's been good, and particularly this last year, it seems like everything is done like it should be done, and council didn't have enough to worry about. It's been good.
Very good. Thanks, Councillor Fallon. Councillor Lego.
I attended the flag raising for the Franco-Ontario Day and read the proclamation with the CAO. Unfortunately, I'm French, but I do not speak French. The CAO helped me out with that. And I just want to thank Councillor Fenlon, Councillor Bath, and Councillor Howie for their service.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you all. I hope I expressed that in the introductory comments. So, and again, thank you very much. I've been attending some personal matters, and councillors have been helping out with some duties normally carried out by the mayor. Glad you've enjoyed them, and thank you very much for filling in on those roles. Been carrying on with KDSB meetings, which they've been hybrid, so I've been able to attend. I think I did one in person, but virtual. The health unit continues with virtual meetings, so I've been doing that. Continue my engagement with the newly forming and now announced Ontario Health Team. And we had a Police Services Board meeting today, and the Policing Cost Coalition, we continue to meet on a regular basis. That's been it, so thank you very much. And we do have one final closed session. So a motion to move into closed session at 6:25 p.m. to discuss matters relating to personal matters about an individual, including municipal or local board employee, per Municipal Act 2001 as amended, Section 239 2B1, item appointments to council, boards, commissions, and committees membership, and a second item related to personal matters of an identifiable individual. Moved by Councillor Howie, seconded by Councillor Fenlon. All in favor? I have to wait till I get the go signal from Renee. That council ratifies the direction given to staff relative to the items presented in the closed session on October 19th, 2022, as follows.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence. So the first resolution will be that council approves amending Schedule A to bylaw number 92-18, being a bylaw to make appointments to various boards, commissions, and committees by deleting Yoko Schreiber and Tricia Frempong from the Sioux Lookout Environment Committee.
Moved by Councillor Howie, seconded by Councillor Fallon. All in favor? Carried. And the second motion?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, that council ratifies direction provided to staff in closed session respecting staffing matters.
Moved by Councillor Howie, seconded by Councillor Timpson. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And the bylaw number 65-22, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Sioux Lookout, October 19th, 2022, regular council meeting be read a first, second, and third time and passed. Moved by Councillor Howie, seconded by Councillor Fallon. All in favor? Carried. We stand adjourned. Thank you very much.